Welcome back, viewers. So today we are still talking about IELTS Writing Module Academic and General Training Writing Task 2 Personal Opinion. And this is the second video out of the 3 videos that we will be having for this particular module. And in this video we will be talking about the writing process. In the previous video we talked about the planning process. So I do recommend that if you guys haven't watched the first video, do go and watch part 1 and then come back to this one as things would be related to one another in regards to the content of the 2 videos. So with that, I'm your tutor Tahmid from Lekhapora Online. Hope you guys find this video helpful. So let's get on with the video. So firstly, I'd like to mention a couple of key points. So after you're done with your planning, you're done with making the outline, you're going to start writing. So we recommend that you should spend about 25 minutes to write. And you use your outline that you have made in your planning process, and that will guide you while writing your essay. So the writing process, today's video basically is divided into 3 lessons. The first one is writing the introduction, then writing the paragraphs, and then we have the conclusion. So our lessons would be divided into these categories. So first, let's talk about how we should be writing the introduction. So the introduction of your essay generally states your thesis, and it tells the reader how you plan to develop your ideas. So the main ideas that you developed from your outline should be summarized in the introduction. So the introduction would consist of the thesis, basically that would introduce the readers to your essay, and it will also consist of the main ideas that you will be elaborating in the body of your essay. So let's take a look at this example. So in this example we have a particular one. So in many parts of the world, people rely on private cars for transportation. In what ways does reliance on private cars affect the way we live? Do the effect tend to be positive or negative? So here, there are two introductions given to you, version A and version B. So let's see which introduction is more appropriate, or which introduction basically ticks off all the criteria. So let's read version A first. A lot of people have their own cars, and this affects the way we live. We rely on our cars, and this can be both good and bad. So now let's take a look at version B. In many places, private cars are the most important form of transportation, and this has had a big impact on the way people live. Private cars offer a lot of freedom, but they also cause crowding and pollution, and they encourage isolation. Despite the advantages, I believe they have a negative effect on our lives. So version B obviously is much more descriptive and elaborative. So let's see which one actually makes sense and which one is more appropriate. So version A presents the topic that private cars affect our lives in both good and bad ways, but it does not tell us much about what are some of the good ways or what are some of the bad ways that private car affects our life. So in version B, it mentions several ways in which cars affect our lives. They give us freedom, but also causes crowding or traffic issues and pollution, and as well as isolation. So this introduction, the one mentioned in version B, lets the reader know what to expect in the body of the essay, that each one of those effects will be discussed in detail. So in version B, they are actually mentioning a couple of main ideas or main points that the writer is seeking to write in the body of the essay. So the introduction mentioned in version B gives the readers a better idea of what the essay is going to talk about. So hoping that this example has helped you guys understand that what proper introduction should touch upon. So an appropriate introduction should consist of the thesis and also the main ideas that the writer plans on writing in the body of the essay. So let's take a look at another example. So here, the instruction goes as follows. Using a cell phone while driving is dangerous because it causes the driver to become distracted. Therefore, cell phone use by drivers should be made illegal. To what extent do you agree or disagree? So let's read version A first. I agree that it is dangerous to drive while talking on a phone. This is why we need laws against this practice. Now let's read version B. Some people believe that there should be a law against using a cell phone while driving, but I do not agree with this point of view. I think that often cell phone use by a driver is necessary and that there are ways to make it safe. So let's take a look at which one is the better introduction. So remember, the correct introduction should consist of the thesis, what the essay is about, and also a couple of main ideas that you will be talking in the body of the essay. So that should give the readers an idea of what the essay is about and what you want to talk about. So in version A, it presents the writer's agreement with the statement, but it does not give any reasons for his opinion. So remember, in the introduction, they have said that to what extent do you agree or disagree? So even if you agree or even if you disagree, you have to reason your opinion. So the reader in version A is given no guidance about how the essay will be developed. So just by reading the introduction, version A's introduction, the reader has no idea of what the essay will be talking about. But in version B, the writer does present its opinion and then supports it with two reasons: that cell phone use is often necessary and that it can be safe. From this introduction, the reader can expect to see one paragraph in the body of the essay for each of these reasons. So based on the introduction in version B, the reader knows that, okay, so he disagrees, and he is actually like backing the fact that, okay, using cell phone might be unsafe, but often it's actually necessary, and the writer actually gives out two reasons for that. So the readers automatically would understand that, okay, so in the body of the essay, the writer would basically justify these main ideas into greater details. So let's take another look at this example. So here, what we are essentially going to do is that you will be reading the introduction, and then you need to identify the thesis and the main ideas from the introduction. So in Lekhapora Online, what we advocate is that we are not only going to tell you that, okay, this is the introduction and you need to find the, this is the instruction of the essay, and now you need to write the introduction. We also like to go backwards, where you have the introduction with you, but you have to come up and break down the introduction into its components, which we have told you initially that it should consist of a thesis and it should consist of the main ideas. So if you can do both, for example, write an introduction from the instructions and identify the thesis and the main ideas from a written model introduction, your understanding would be more strong and you would be more keen on succeeding in every step of this. So here we have given you the introduction and we have given you the model. Introduction answer, and we have given you the instruction. So let's take a look at this. So a growing number of people work by telecommunicating. That is, the employee works from home using a computer and the internet to connect the office. What are the advantages and disadvantages of working this way? So here we have the model introduction. While telecommunicating is becoming increasingly popular, there are both benefits and drawbacks to this way of working. Telecommunicating has many conveniences for the employee, and it can help the employer cut costs as well. On the other hand, employers often feel it makes it more difficult to manage their workers. So here, as you can see, that the writer has said that, okay, there are both benefits and drawbacks in using telecommunication in the workplace. So he mentioned a couple of advantages and then he mentioned a disadvantage. So from here, you need to identify the thesis and then you need to identify the main idea. So let's see how we can do that. So once you read the introduction, you know that, okay, the thesis is that the writer is saying that there are both benefits and drawbacks to telecommunicating. So this is the thesis. This is the essay. This is what the essay is about. So first, he mentions that it is convenient for the employee. So the main idea is that it is convenient for the employee. The second main idea is employer can cut costs. And lastly, he mentioned the disadvantage. So that is the third main idea, which is it is more difficult to manage workers. So you see, you can obviously write the introduction from the given instructions by coming up with the main ideas. But once you know that, okay, I can also break down a written introduction into its individual components, it will actually increase the way you can think about when you have a given set of instructions. So hopefully this will help you guys understand better, and it would actually help you write the introduction more effectively, because one thing that I always say is that the introduction is very important because the introduction sets the tone of your essay. So if you have a very catchy, interesting, and like to the point introduction, it would actually attract the reader's attention, and the rest of the, and basically it sets up the tone for the whole of the rest of the essay. So here we have an activity for you guys. So what I have just told you, you read the instruction, you read the introduction given to you, the model introduction, and then you break this introduction into its individual components, which is the thesis and the three main ideas that the introduction talks about. You read the introduction carefully and you first read the instructions. You understand the instructions and then you read the introduction and identify the components. Similarly, you do this one as well. You read the instruction, you read the introduction, and then you break it down into its thesis and the three main ideas. You can pause the video, you can do it orally, or you can take a piece of paper and write on it as well. So now we move on to our second lesson, which is writing the paragraph. So once you have written your thesis statement and you have shown the reader how you plan to develop your essay and you have set the tone of your essay, you have a model for writing your body paragraphs. So you have a nice plan now. So you use the main ideas and the supporting details from your outline that you wrote in while you were planning. Remember, as I have talked about in the planning video, part 1 of this video, you plan, you basically identify the main ideas, and then you find 2 to 3 supporting details. So that is your outline, and now you use those outline. You basically turn each main idea along with its supporting detail into a paragraph. So for example, if you have 3 main ideas, for example, 2 advantages, 1 disadvantage, and so you have 3 main ideas, so you will have 3 body paragraphs. You will talk about each main idea along with its supporting details in each paragraph. And obviously you have to do it in a grammatical fashion. You have to use nice vocabulary, as obviously it will attract more marks, and your spelling should be correct, and you should use a wide variety of sentences. So now let's take a look at this example. So here, this is the same example, the telecommunication one. So a growing number of people work by telecommunicating. This is the employee works from home using a computer and internet to connect with the office. What are the advantages and disadvantages of working this way? So this is your instruction, and you have the thesis. There are both benefits and drawbacks to telecommunicating, and you have the 3 main ideas. So now, what you're going to do is, you will turn each main idea into a paragraph. So the first main idea was telecommunicating is more convenient for the employee. So now you come up with supporting details. So what are some of the reasons that it is more convenient for the employee? They don't have to move around, no need to commute, no need for special work clothes, and they have more time for their personal responsibilities or their family responsibilities. So you turn this main idea along with the supporting details into a paragraph. So you basically paraphrase it and then you turn it into a paragraph with transition words and a variety of sentences. So here we have an example of how a typical paragraph using this information might look like. So telecommunicating makes things more convenient for the employee. For one thing, there is no need to spend time and money communicating between work and home. So you have touched upon the first supporting detail. In addition, the employee can wear casual clothes most days, so does not have to spend a lot of time and money shopping for work clothes. You touched upon the second supporting details. Finally, working at home means the employee has more time to devote to family responsibilities such as cooking, cleaning, and childcare. So you see, in your outline, you actually identified the supporting details in keywords, 2 to 3 words, 4 or 5 words basically. But now you are turning them into sentences. So while you do that, you have to use transition words. For example, for one thing, or firstly, in addition, additionally, subsequently, so finally. So these are additional words that helps the reader follow with each of the points that you're mentioning. So just as the way I have mentioned right now, you do the rest of the 2 main ideas. So here we have the second main idea. Telecommunicating allows the employer to cut costs. So the supporting details that we came up for this one was you can save rent with smaller office, as most of your employees work from home. You need less equipment or less inventory, and you have a smaller support staff. So you turn these information into a paragraph, just as I have done in the previous example. So you read the main idea, you understand the supporting details, and just as the way I have shown you how to write the paragraph in the previous example, you do this one. And once you're done with this one, you do the third main idea as well, and this will be the third paragraph of your essay. You can pause the video here, you can do it orally, but I do suggest that you write it because writing would actually improve your writing skill. You use transition words, simple compound or compound complex sentences using variety of sentences, rich vocabulary, and in this way you can make your essay more attractive to marks. So finally, we come to the conclusion. So a good conclusion briefly sums up the ideas you have developed in your essay. So it is basically a restatement of the thesis and the main ideas you laid out in your introduction. And for some parts, it is similar to your introduction. So in your introduction, you are talking about the thesis and the main ideas. And in your conclusion, it's basically the summary of the whole essay. And you are reinstating your thesis and the main ideas. So let's take a look at these examples. So here we have a typical example of an introduction and a conclusion, and look how they are similar to some extent. So for example, let's read the introduction. The divorce rate is increasing in many places. I believe that the breakdown of the extended family and the stress of work are the major causes of this situation. Fortunately, although these issues have led to a rise in divorce rates, there are ways we can solve this problem. So this is the introduction. Now let's take a look at the conclusion. There are a lot of demands in modern life. So you see one similarity right in the beginning was that in the introduction, they have mentioned that divorce rates is increasing in many places, and in the introduction, it was mentioned that I believe that the breakdown of the extended family and the stresses of work are the major causes of this problem. So in the conclusion, you're mentioning the same thing, but you're writing it in a different way. You're saying that there are a lot of demands in modern life. that places stress on a marriage and leads to divorce. You see, the same idea, but you are writing it in a different way. So this is basically the difference between introduction and conclusion. You are talking about the same thing. The introduction is basically setting the tone of the essay, or basically introducing the reader to the essay, and the conclusion is basically reinstating what the essay is about. So you see, the conclusion here says that there are a lot of demands in modern life that places stress on marriage and leads to divorce. However, people can choose to make changes to their lifestyle that can result in a better, stronger marriage. So you see, in the introduction, it was also mentioned that fortunately, although these issues have led to a rise in divorce rates, there are ways we can solve this problem. And the same thing is mentioned in the conclusion as well, but in a different way. However, people can choose to make changes to their lifestyle that can result in a better, stronger marriage. So you see, conclusion to some extent is a sort of a paraphrased version of your introduction, a shorter version obviously. It just basically sums up what your essay is about. So that's what I was talking about. So similarly, in the discussion, if you see that the introduction mentions 2 causes of divorce, the breakdown of the extended family and the stresses of work. And similarly, in the conclusion, these 2 main ideas are summed up as a demand of modern life. The introduction also states the opinion that there are ways to solve the problem of rising divorce rates. The conclusion also reinstates this opinion as people can choose to govern their life by making the necessary changes in lifestyle. So if you are unhappy with something, you make the changes in your lifestyle, and then those things would automatically follow and become better as well. So see, just as what I have mentioned, introduction and conclusion are similar in terms of the content, but it's written in a different way. Conclusion is a smaller version of the introduction. So similarly, let's compare this one as well. So let's look at the introduction first. Some people believe that there should be a law against using a cell phone while driving, but I do not agree with this point of view. I think that often cell phone use by a driver is necessary and there are ways to make it safe. Now let's take a look at the conclusion. Making cell phone use by drivers illegal would be unfair because many people need to use their phones while in the car. As long as drivers use certain devices, cell phone use is not distracting and not dangerous. So see, similar ideas, but now let's look at the discussion. So the introduction states the writer's opinion, disagreement with laws against cell phone while driving. So this is reinstated in the conclusion as making cell phone use by drivers illegal would be unfair. So they are touching upon the same idea that the writer disagrees with such sort of laws being amended. The introduction also presents 2 main ideas. Cell phone use by a driver is necessary and there are ways to make it safe. And similarly, these ideas are again mentioned in the conclusion in terms that many people need to use their phones while in the car as long as the drivers use certain devices, which can be Bluetooth services or other ways in which the cell phone isn't distracting and it's not distracting the driver's eyes from the road basically. So you see again what I'm saying, that introduction and conclusion are similar in terms of the information that they are mentioning, but written in a different way. So here what we essentially want you guys to do is that we have an activity for you guys. So you read the introduction and then you come up with a proper conclusion using the principles and ideas that I have mentioned till now. So introduction should be turned into a conclusion very easily by paraphrasing as much as possible and writing it in a more concise way, but it should consist of the same information, the thesis and the main ideas. Similarly, we want you to do this one as well. You do the introduction, you read the introduction, and then you come up with a appropriate conclusion. Similarly, we have the third activity for you guys. So in Lekhapora Online, we highly prioritize you guys trying it for yourself. Only by doing that you would know in what sort of a position you are and in which areas you need improvements. So you try this again. You can pause the video. You take a piece of paper. I do recommend you guys do it by writing and not orally, because obviously this is a writing task and you need to practice your writing skills. So you pause the video. In each of the activities, you read the introduction and then you come up with a proper conclusion. So with that, I'm almost at the end of my video. Just a recap of the whole video. So you should spend around 25 minutes for writing. You use your outline as a guide to write your essay, the outline that you have made while you were planning. The introduction must consist of the thesis and the main ideas of the essay. Each of the main ideas, along with its supporting details, should make up a paragraph. So if you have 3 main ideas, you will have 3 body paragraphs. And the conclusion should effectively sum up the whole essay, along with its key ideas. And the conclusion, the content of the conclusion would be similar as the introduction. So with that, I would like to thank you guys for sticking by. Hopefully you guys found this video helpful. If you guys did, do leave us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. And do stick by for the third video that we will be having for a complete understanding of personal opinion. With that, I'm your tutor, Tahmid Alamgir, signing out. Thank you guys.